So what's your name and what's your game?
I am Benjamin Young. The game is called From Light. It's a 2D platformer that uses long exposure photography to sort of manipulate the world and move your way through the level. It's sort of, there's some story aspect, but I'll keep that secret for now, I suppose.
Yeah, you gotta keep some stuff behind the curtain. And what's your involvement on the game?
I am the composer and audio lead and sound designer and stuff. All the sounds.
So in the pitch, long exposure photography seems core to the visual aspect.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of curious, how did you take inspiration audio wise from a visual kind of concept?
Well, it's sort of interesting because, it's the way you move around is you sort of jump around, and whatever aspects or whatever little bits and pieces of light in the game are in sort of the frame of whatever picture you're taking follow you around, and it takes you a while to really sort of build a picture out of that. So part of it was just a time thing. It's that it develops fairly slowly. As you're exploring the world, you really kind of want to let people go their own direction and sort of reward them for that. So you get a little bit here, a little bit there. The music changes as you sort of cross over this threshold, which tells you there's something there, but you don't want to ramp it up so much that they don't want to go back and explore what they've seen before. So certainly that was part of the how that sort of figured into it. And on top of that, I'm a little biased, but it's a really pretty game. So, all of these interesting colors that are going on and reflecting that, and just, a lot of interesting elements in the music. And we definitely spent a lot of time trying to make it as dynamic as possible. So having a whole bunch of options to sort of come in and come out whenever things are going on around you in the game sort of helps sink you into the experience, I suppose.
So what's the kind of, what are some examples of that kind of dynamic process? Is it just on a music front that it's dynamic, or are you playing around with ambiences and kind of sound effects as well?
Yeah, the line is a little blurred between those in this game.
I guess I guess the music kind of comes in and comes out. Or?
Right. Well, I don't know that it's 100% quiet ever. Sometimes you get very low, some sort of more of an ambience kind of a vibe, and then other times things are happening, but it's never sort of frenetic. If you ever want to go back and explore stuff, you basically can at any point in the game. But just that sort of playing with, if you see a lot on the screen, either choosing to let's have a little bit more going on in whatever music is going on, or if you really want to have people sort of take a step back and listen to what's going on, you sort of drop things out, sort of slow down the pace, maybe play the theme over the top. We have there's sort of a panorama view where you basically drop everything out that's been going on beforehand, and you just have the theme and the piano playing over the top. I've meandered a little bit.
No. That's super interesting. I'm kind of curious too, because our workflow on Darkest Dungeon is we leverage Fmod as much as possible and try and hook up things as kind of much as possible automatically. So new monsters come in the game, they don't need to tell me as the programmer. New narration can come in the game completely without me being involved and stuff like that. And I was kind of wondering with because you mentioned depending on what's on the screen or how much is on the screen, that kind of affects how much you're going to really want to put in there composure wise. Is that something where you're kind of working through it, or kind of level by level as it changes, or is it kind of built from what's manifested in the game at that time, from a design standpoint?
I'm probably more so on this project than almost any of the other projects I can think of. I'm really in there on a day-to-day basis. So if something's happening with design, I have some input. We try to keep audio in mind when we're sort of moving forward.
That's always good.
Which is great. Yeah, I love that. And I've been on basically, from very early on in the process as well. So this was already always a little bit of the idea behind it. But I don't know. We've been working on this on and off for about 2 years, so there's a lot of stuff to play with. So there are some sort of defaults that we fall back on, but part of it too is we're using Elias, which isn't quite as robust when it comes to just sort of dropping things in, and then so it really has to be sort of more finely tuned to, okay, when this thing happens, this thing has to happen. When this thing happens, this thing has to happen.
But that also probably gives you more of a direct, like from an audio direction standpoint.
Yeah, pros and cons.
You're having to make these kind of
Right.
choices and kind of.
Well, it's also, I mean, it's a 2D platformer, and it's more linear. I mean, it isn't quite linear. There are choices that you can make to go up or down, but the you as an audio guy, I don't have to expect anything to happen at any time. I know I have a much better idea of, okay, this thing is going to happen, this thing is going to happen, or this thing is going to happen. So I can really sort of fine tune that, and I don't really have to prepare for all of the eventualities. Like I did a MOBA a while back, and there were a couple of other games where it's sort of, anything, people could just be popping in, you're all of a sudden in a different area, who knows what's going on, and you have to keep all of those eventualities in mind. I feel that's when having like FMOD or Wise session with just a bunch of things that all work with each other, I feel like that's the ideal scenario for that kind of thing, and I was really able to do more of my background's in film music. So this was almost a bit more of a film music experience because I'm scoring, it's sort of a choose your own adventure, so you have to keep that in mind. But, it's more, all right, this is going to happen, and then one of these three things is going to happen, and you sort of plan that out. So
you mentioned working kind of off and on this project.
Mm-hmm.
How do you kind of stay how do you stay consistent with work that you're kind of coming in and out of, kind of over a long period of time, but on this project?
You mean just keeping up with what's going on, that kind of thing?
Yeah, just like I imagine that you're probably better now than you were 2 years ago at things.
Oh, at
right?
things? Yeah, I suppose so.
And
I
know
we're certainly more on the same page, if that's what you mean. I mean, a lot of it's just sort of. We stick to whatever schedule we're planning on fairly closely, and we have regular sort of check-ins, and the game directors are generally pretty cool about, we talk things through. And again, I'm much more closely tied into this project than I have been in a lot of projects previously. So even if it's, if it's been a couple of weeks or whatever, I still have a pretty good idea. I'll check the Slack, we'll go through. Yeah. Thankfully, it hasn't been too difficult to figure out what's going on. I've definitely had the opposite happen to me before, but this one's been nice.
And what are your soundtrack plans?
Well, actually, we've already released the soundtrack of the demo, just as a little bit of a marketing stuff.
Oh, kind of like an EP kind of thing?
It's got I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 8 tracks, and it's fine. It's basically just exactly everything you hear in the.
Did you kind of put that out as a free download, or is it on Bandcamp or?
No, it's online. I think there's a SoundCloud. It's definitely on Game Jolt. It's probably on itch.io. And it's just sort of right now everything even remotely involved with the game is free because we're still. A lot of development. We're sort of weighing publishers at the moment, so it's sort of
cool.
Anything we can get out of it.
Yeah, and are you personally working on other things while working on this game?
Yeah, but my day job is I'm a freelance film, TV, and video game composer.
Oh, okay.
So just all sorts of weird stuff.
How do you hustle those jobs? How do your jobs they come from coming to conferences?
Yeah.
Or do they come from just cold call emails?
Some cold call emails. Almost all of it's word of mouth. So I've worked with some guy on something before. He has a slightly bigger project. I help him on that, or references, that kind of thing. There's definitely some cold calling stuff in there. I do advertisement work from time to time. That's usually more
music for ads.
Yeah, that's usually more of a out of the blue sort of. I sent a cold call a while back.
What is that like? Somebody's I have a soft drink. I want a song that talks about, or not even that just emotes quenching thirst.
I'd much prefer if that were actually the case. What generally happens is I have a library of tracks that I've written over a period of time, and I give permission for other companies to license those. And if somebody picks, we want this track, we want something like this track, and so, I would love to work for somebody who's give me the sound of thirst quenching, you know.
Oh,
but,
okay. So
but
normally,
it's more.
So they
you know,
contact you and they're like, I have a couch store.
right. Although I guess, yeah, there is one exception, which is I have a former boss and mentor who I work with from time to time. There's this like goldfish like TV show kind of a thing where they have
like the food or the fish?
The food.
Okay.
Yeah, they have these like as advertisements. They give sort of these like one-off like tiny little episodes of the goldfish like having fun, and they're running around, and so that's all like scored like it's a TV show, and so that's you know the other side of it, but you know that's sort of rare and a little oddball.
Do you compose like? So are you just some days you're just like random Wednesday you're like I'm in a commercial mood. I'm gonna make some like sounds that are going to be good for like commercials. Like, do you have like kind of a vibe like elevator music? I mean, like for ads, like is it kind of something where you can?
Yeah, not quite as much. I don't go with moods as much anymore. It's much. I find it a lot easier to just sit down and work on whatever. I don't know. It took me a while, but I'm much better at sort of getting into the zone and being happy in that zone with like, okay, I need to do this now. I need to do this now. The whole like. You know, it used to be like, I gotta wait for inspiration to strike or whatever, but you know, I don't know about that necessarily. Now that said, you know, I'll have off days and I'll go, oh man, like, you know what I haven't done in a while? I haven't made some like 8-bit music, or you know what I haven't done in a while? You know, that kind of thing. So sure, that does happen from time to time, but not that frequently.
Cool. Well, thanks for being on The Question Buzz.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do you have anything else you want to plug?
I mean, From Light Game. It's From Light Game on anything. We're on Twitch. We're on
Instagram,
Twitter. We're not. I'm on
Snapchat?
Instagram. I'm Ben Young Music on everything. So, yeah. But I don't know if we're on Snapchat.
And if they want to listen to your music, what's the best way of doing that?
Oh, BenYoungMusic.com, BenjaminYoungMusic.com. I've got a bunch of stuff up there. I'm also Ben Young Music on all the platforms, those social media things.
And where are we right now?
We are in Brighton at the Hilton Metropole in a corner doing an interview at Develop: Brighton, the conference.